Throughout recorded history, mankind has been on an endless journey of discovery, a quest for knowledge. Ancient mariners sailed out into the unknown, guided only by the moon and the stars in the heavens above. We are immersed in wondrous technology, mostly developed in the past 50 years. Man's incredible advance has brought us to a point where now, even the conquest of the moon that guided those ancient mariners is just another page in history. The widespread use of digital technology will have as broad and sweeping an influence on our world as the invention of electricity. Just as sailors relied on this sextant to guide them across uncharted seas, computers have become the instruments we rely on to chart a course through the endless stream of information that we must deal with on a daily basis. I hold in my hand another link in man's amazing technological progress. This DIMM chip allows Macintoshes to access millions of pieces of information every second. This Science Museum's IMAX theater allows audiences to visit the depths of the oceans and the vastness of outer space using stereo sound and 3D images. Yet this iMac is an even more amazing image machine, one whose icon-based operating system can help to navigate the internet's vast oceans of data and manage the rapidly changing requirements of our information age.
Hello, and welcome to Volume 2 of the MacMaster series, Master the Internet for the Macintosh. My name is Earl Nightingale Jr., and I'm here in Global Control today to teach you about one of the most exciting new forms of communications that mankind has ever come up with. I'm talking about the Internet. Now, from this room, I can access any website in the world. And what's exciting is you can do the same thing from your home or office. I'm going to be showing you how to get that done today. Let me give you an overview about some of the topics that we're going to discuss. First of all, I'm going to give you a brief introduction to the Internet, where it came from, where it is today, and where it's going. We're also going to talk about what an Internet account is and how to get one set up. I'm going to show you how to configure your machine to run on the Internet. And then we're going to talk about using the Internet, the software that we use, getting your email system configured, and how to get in touch with other people. When we're done, you should have a full understanding of what the Internet is and how to use it. Now, this tape is not an encyclopedia of knowledge on the Internet. I'm going to be teaching you how to use the Internet. For further information, you should go and find other sources. But I'm going to try to give you all that you need to do to get going, and I'm going to answer the most common questions that I'm asked as a computer consultant. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, the Internet is composed of thousands of computers around the world. If you go to a computer to get information, that computer is called a server, and there are in fact tens of thousands of them around the world with amazing amounts of information on them. Now, how did this get started? Well, the Internet was originally developed by the United States government for secure communication in the event of a nuclear war. In the 1950s, the effects of radioactive clouds and nuclear weapons were well known on existing forms of communications. A buried network that would allow commanders in Washington to communicate with soldiers in the field was needed, and it was set up. Before too long, this system was expanded to allow financial institutions and universities around the country to communicate as well. Now, in its earliest form, you could only send messages across like a teletype, but slowly, the Internet has evolved into something more. It's only been in the last 3 to 5 years that we've really seen a convergence of media happen on the Internet. The World Wide Web, or you may have heard of it as WWW, has allowed people to see the same thing no matter what kind of a computer they're on and no matter where they're located. It's done the same thing for the Internet that the Macintosh has done for computers. It's given it a graphical user interface. There are pictures, words, and sounds that can more easily communicate the things that you want to find to you on your screen. Now, it's amazing what you're going to be able to find, and I think I'm going to amaze you as we go along today. Let's talk a little bit about an Internet Service Provider, or ISP, and how to find one. Now, if you've just purchased an iMac and you're getting ready to get on the Internet, don't worry. All the software you need is already preloaded onto your computer. Let's talk briefly about an ISP, or Internet Service Provider. Now, you have lots of choices for this. I'm sure as you've been driving down the road, you see billboards advertising low connect rates and fast access. Now, the choice of an internet service provider is completely your own. If you just purchased an iMac, when you first set your computer up, it'll ask you if you'd like to sign on with a new ISP. If you do, it'll select one for you. Now, the one it selects for you is called Earthlink, and they're a nationwide internet provider. One of the advantages to using a nationwide provider is if you travel with a PowerBook like I do, you can usually dial a local access number to get on the internet wherever you're located. If you choose an internet service provider that's just located in your own town, you may have to dial a long-distance call if you're away from home and want access to the internet. Another thing to think about with your ISP is your email account. If you think you may be moving around the country or you might just want to switch ISPs, you might want to consider getting an internet-based email account versus one that's based with your internet service provider. Now, I'm going to show you this in more detail later on, but the concept is this. An internet-based email server is one that you can access anywhere you are in the world from any computer that has internet access. If you use an ISP internet mail account, generally you have to dial in with your own account to check your mail. That means if you're visiting friends in another state and you want to use their internet setup, you may not be able to retrieve your email. Now, different ISPs differ, so you want to contact them to see what they do in that matter. Another option is America Online. Now, America Online was one of the early graphical user interfaces for online services. Now, they've really grown in the past several years, and it's a wonderful way to get started on the internet. It's very, very simple, and the interface is not unlike that of the Macintoshes. There are buttons and pictures to let you navigate to the areas you'd like to go. It's kept very, very simple, and as I said before, it's a nice way to get started. The advantage of being directly on the internet and not going through America Online is that generally you have more options. Some internet browsers don't work exactly the way they're supposed to with America Online, and certain plugins may not function as well. Additionally, America Online may restrict certain sites automatically before you can even get a chance to view them for yourself. So when you decide on an ISP, make sure it's one that's going to service your needs completely. Let's talk briefly about the username that you're going to be setting up on the internet. Now, it's important to remember not to get too cute with your username if you're planning on using your email for any sort of business reasons. I'm not going to share with you my first username, but what I've changed it to is Earl N at my address. That makes it easy for people to remember it. If you have a short last name, you might try using the first letter of your first name and your entire last name. That makes it easy to remember. But it can be anything you want. If you're into sports, you might link it to that. I know one dog catcher at gate.net, so have fun with it and try to pick something that's either descriptive or easy to remember. I'm now going to go over how to configure your Macintosh manually to connect to the internet. Now, I'm going to go over it in the most basic way, and the connections I give you should work without a problem. If, when we're through, you still can't get connected, contact your internet service provider or ISP for more help. Let's go ahead and get configured now. The first item we're going to use is in the Control Panels folder under your Apple menu, and it'll either be called PPP or Remote Access. They're virtually identical programs. On my computer, it's Remote Access. Now, in this window, I have 3 fields to fill in: my username, my password, and my phone number. I type that into each of the sections. By the way, make sure you check the Save Password checkbox if you don't want to have to re-enter your password every time you connect to the internet. And while we're talking about passwords, don't use something that someone can guess easily, like your maiden name, your name of your dog, or a number that you frequently use. Try to keep it secret. If you use the Save Password checkbox, you won't have to remember it again. The next control panel we're going to use is called Modem. And with this control panel, it tells your Macintosh what modem you want to use to connect to the internet. Now, I'm using the internal modem, which is called the PowerBook G3 internal modem. Additionally, it asks if I want sound, and I said yes. And for dialing, it asks if I want to use tone, and I do. Now we're all set. The third control panel is called TCP/IP. Now, TCP/IP, or Transfer Control Protocol / Internet Protocol, is the backbone that your computer uses to get you connected to the internet. Now, in this case, and it is like this for most internet service providers, I'm telling it to connect using PPP, configure using the PPP server. That means that my ISP is going to handle all of the assignments there. On the bottom, it's asking for my name server address. Those are the numbers that my ISP gave me. And it's also asking for the search domain, and that's simply the name of my internet service provider. In this case, it's bellsouth.net. That's it. My software is now configured to connect my Macintosh to the internet. I should be able now to go ahead and double-click on either my browser software or my email software and get connected automatically. Now, the tones that are going across the modem right now are how your modem synchronizes with your server's modem. Before we get started, a quick word about modems. If you don't have an iMac or a PowerBook, you need to get an external modem for your computer. Now, the current standard for modems is 56K. Now, that just relates to the speed it brings things down. And further distinguish that in a 56K modem, you'd like one that is the V90 standard. You may remember a few years ago, you might have heard about 56K Flex or X2. Those were two different 56K protocols, and they've been replaced by the single V90 standard. Now, if you already have one of these older modems, don't worry, you can have your modem upgraded to take advantage of it. If you want to get a less expensive modem, a 33.6 modem is fine. But remember, a 56K modem is much faster, and you'll be online far less time and be able to get at the information you want faster. If you're planning on spending any time on the internet and your modem is slower than 28.8, I urge you to buy a new modem. Web pages are so graphic intensive right now that the faster the modem, the better. We might also say one word about a digital connection like an ISDN line. ISDN lines use a special digital line to achieve much, much higher transfer rates. An ISDN adapter plugs into the back of your computer, and you'll need a special phone line run to your home or office to take advantage of it. The advantage is that instead of running at 56K, it runs at as fast as 128K. Now, if you have cable modems available in your area, please find out about that. Cable modems are even faster than ISDN, and you can usually get one for about the same cost as you'd pay an internet service provider. So find out before you buy. You'll be glad you did. Time for us to talk about internet browser software. The first software application I'm going to use is Netscape Communicator 4.5. Now, this is the most recent version of Netscape available as of the making of this tape. You may have a newer version available to you now, or you might have an older version on your computer. The basic way the program operates is identical. The newer versions just have more features. Now, I went ahead and double-clicked on Netscape Communicator, and because my Macintosh was set up for internet connection, it's automatically opening that connection for me. PPP is dialing up my internet account, sending it my username and password, and then the server's going to come back and say, okay, I know you, go ahead and get on the internet. As soon as it does, my internet browser software is going to open up to what's called my home page. Now, that's just the default location that it opens up to whenever the program runs. I've set mine up to what's called an Excite channel. Now, this is a channel that has information I've specified on it every time the computer starts up the internet. It has the local weather, sports scores, stock information. It even has information on television and movie guides. Now, we've opened up Netscape Navigator, and we have a very, very busy window in front of it. Earl's Start Page is what it opened up to. Let's talk about some of the different commands in the window that we're looking at. At the very top of the menu bar, the first two buttons on the left are back and forward. Now, neither of these buttons is available right now because we haven't gone anywhere. You use these buttons to move backwards and forward through pages that you've already visited. The next button is Reload. Now, the Reload button is there because your internet software tries to store part of the frequent sites that you visit. It allows you to reload it in case information has changed. Now, over time, you may have to hit this button to get it to refresh the information on the screen. The fourth button over is Home, and that just takes me back to whatever home page I've selected automatically. Then there's a Search button, and you can configure this to go to whichever search engine you'd like. We're going to talk about searching in greater detail later on, so I'm going to skip over it right now. Then there's a Netscape button. That'll take me directly to Netscape's home page, where I can find newer versions of the software and plugins to allow my browser to use more features. Then I have a button for images, which is unavailable, a print button, a security button, and a stop button. Now, the security button you often won't use. It'll just give you information for whatever security is available on whatever page you're on. So the stop button, when it's illuminated, allows you to stop the current page from loading. Now, the next line down gives me the address I'm currently located at. If I want to go to another address, I can just type it in there by dragging over the text and typing in my new section. Let's take a look at the Sony homepage. Now, internet addresses are usually very, very easy to guess at. There are several different prefixes and suffixes that they use, but most of the pages you're going to be visiting will start off with www. Now, that's an abbreviation for World Wide Web. The next part of the address will be the name of the company, for example, Sony. The suffix of the internet address tells you what kind of a site that it is. The different suffixes are COM for a commercial site or a business on the web, NET for a network or an internet service provider, GOV for a government address, EDU for an education or a university address, and ORG for an organization or nonprofit address. Now, I know I went through those quickly, but they're going to become second nature to you. So, for example, if you were trying to guess the address of the White House in Washington, D.C., you could probably guess it as www.whitehouse.gov for government. Let's try that one now. I'm going to go ahead and enter in www.whitehouse.gov and hit the open button. Now that's great. It's loading up the White House homepage for me automatically. Now this is an interesting site because there's a different greeting depending on what time of the day that you enter in. This is also a great place to check your email system because if you send a letter to the president, vice president, or first lady, you'll immediately get a response back and you can check to make sure your email is working. Now let's go to a commercial site to see what that looks like. I'm going to enter in www.sony.com. Now, newer, faster modems are terrific. My pages are loading up very, very quickly. In the early days of the internet, we didn't have modems that could do 57.6 speeds. There was only speeds like 300 or 1200. It used to take forever to get where you were going. And here we are on the Sony site. Now, this is a busy site and there's lots of things going on. I can visit the music section of their site, movies and TV shows, electronics, PlayStation, or play an online game now. Now, the beauty of the internet is that it works just like your Macintosh. When you want to visit something, just click on the area you'd like to visit and it should open up automatically. Let's see what music is available. All I did was click on the music section on the page and it takes me to the Sony music section. Now, if I've gotten to this page and I decide I don't want to go there, this is a perfect chance to use the back button on the top of the screen. If I hit that, it's going to take me right back to Sony. If I hit it again, it takes me back to the White House, and finally, one more time will take me back to the starting page. Now I can use the forward button if I want to, and on this current version of Netscape, I can hold the button down and select which site I'd like to go to. Additionally, I can go to the Go menu to see the sites that I've already visited. Now, you may see things on your page that are underlined. Those are called hyperlinks or just links. By clicking on one of those, it'll instantly transport you to whatever you want to look at. Now, I have an interesting page here. This is my startup page, and it gives me lots of interesting information. For example, I'm going to go ahead and click on the weather. I think it'd be fun to find out what the weather's like in Fargo, North Dakota. So I'm going to say Fargo and say search. I've got a choice for either Fargo, North Dakota in the USA or the Fargo, West Fargo Utility Airport, which I guess is just outside of Fargo. The weather out at the airport right now, the high is 54 and the low is 30, so it's beautiful. You know, it's absolutely amazing the information that you can access on the internet. As you start exploring and trying new things, you won't believe the kind of information you can find. You're going to have a lot of fun. Now, I want to go through a few other quick sections in Netscape to explain how it works. The first thing I want to talk about are bookmarks. Now, a bookmark is where you can save a location that you like to visit on the internet. Let's say, for example, you're interested in the newspaper and you want to go to the New York Times. I can enter in that address and I'm going to guess at it, www.nytimes.com. Now, that's just a guess, but we're going to see if that takes us there. It sure does. I'm now at the New York Times on the website. Now, if this is a site I want to visit frequently, I can go up to the Bookmarks menu and say Add Bookmark. If I go back to my bookmark list, at the very, very bottom of it now, it says the New York Times on the web. That's a shortcut. If I come down and select that, no matter where I am, it's going to instantly take me to the correct address. Now, bookmarks are especially useful on pages that have a cryptic or difficult to remember address. If someone has a personal home page, it's not going to be as simple as www.johnsmith.com. It's going to be a much longer address, and when you put that address in, you don't want to have to remember it, so that's a great time to bookmark. Now, the View menu gives me a couple of different options. I can customize the way that Netscape Navigator appears to me, increase or decrease the font size, and I can also select a character set if I'm not using the English language set. The Communicator window gives me some other options as well. Netscape Communicator is composed of 3 sections: Navigator, which allows you to view and browse web pages; Messenger, which is the built-in email functionality of the program; and Composer. Composer is going to let me design web pages. Now, web page design is an art all to itself, and we're really not going to cover it on this tape. But stay tuned for future Master the Macintosh videos that cover internet design. Now, the way I've set up my system here in this nice office is that I'm using my PowerBook, but I set up this auxiliary monitor so you can see what I'm doing. Every now and then you may notice a scan line going down the page. Now, that's important because it reminds us to use a screensaver. Or make sure you turn off your monitor if your computer is on too long. Screensaver prevents what's called a phosphor burn-in, and that's just what's on the screen becoming permanently etched on the front of your screen. There's an electron gun in the back of your monitor that sprays out a stream of electrons that go across a mask on the very front of the screen, and that delivers the picture to you. Now, if you're not using your monitor constantly while it's on, or if you leave your monitor on overnight, you may need to get something called a screensaver to prevent what's called burn-in. What that means is that if the same screen is displayed on your monitor without a break, it'll become a permanent fixture of your monitor even while it's off. The most common things that are burned into monitors are the menus at the top of the screen, but your hard drive and trash can can get burned in too if you're not careful. Now, this doesn't happen quickly or easily. You have to leave your monitor on non-stop for a long time for this to occur. When you see the scan line running down your screen, make sure that you use that as a reminder to either get a screensaver program or not to forget to turn off your monitor if you're going to be away from it for a long period of time.
Okay, now I've gone ahead and launched Internet Explorer 4.0. Now, that's the web browser made by the Microsoft Corporation. Now, there are some key differences between Internet Explorer 4.0 and Netscape Navigator, and I'd like to go ahead and point those out right now. Let's go ahead and take a look at these tabs on the left-hand side of our screen. There's 4 of them, and they really set Microsoft's Internet Explorer apart from Netscape Communicator. The first one is the Channels button. Now, channels are active web pages. See if I can explain how that works. Imagine a web page that's constantly updated. Now, a normal web page is updated only when there's a change for it, but a channel is something that has continually new breaking news. Now, the channels that are available change from time to time because obviously it's tremendous upkeep to keep a channel going. Go ahead and try out the Channels button in Internet Explorer and play around with it. I'm sure you'll find a channel that you like. The best one is for Internet Explorer, which just gives you updates and new news about how to use the program. The next tab down is Favorites, and remember, favorites in Microsoft Internet Explorer are the same thing as bookmarks are in Netscape Communicator. These are just little placeholders that you've saved that can take you back to a page with a single click. Now, there's already some that are in here, and to add a new one to it, all I have to do is go to the Favorites menu at the top of the screen and choose Add Page to Favorites. Now, here's what's great. Because you already know how to use the Macintosh, you already know how to use this application and how to organize your bookmarks. Bookmarks and favorites are organized into folders, and that's how you should organize them. You can create new folders in your favorites list, and you can move things around to different ones. Now, we can't do it in this tab here on the left, but we can by going up to the title bar and clicking on the favorites folder. Now it's got my entire favorites window open. To move something, for example, my live homepage to the Apple folder, I just click on it to select it and then drag it down into the Apple folder. If I now click on the little triangle next to it, you'll see that it's moved my homepage location to that folder.
one other neat thing about Internet Explorer. Down here on the bottom, this last item, Toolbar Favorites, you can put your frequently used bookmarks in this folder, and they'll come up right on this bar at the very top of your screen. Now, that's a really convenient place to put your frequently used bookmarks. I use it on my other computer frequently, and I really like it a lot. The next one down is the History tab, and the History tab just shows us every place we've been. Now, depending on how much memory you have available on your hard drive and how you set up your preferences for Internet Explorer, the number of things you can go back to will vary on your computer. Now, if I go down to the things I visited before now, it's going to go ahead and group them by date in folders. Now, here's something terrific about Internet Explorer. If I go to the File menu and choose Offline Browsing, I don't have to be connected to the Internet to go to one of the pages in my favorite. Internet Explorer saves a copy of that web page and then lets me look at it offline. Now, even though I'm online right now, I've chosen offline browsing, and it's going to the page without actually consulting the Internet. What's great about this is, if you plan to be traveling with your PowerBook, or if you have a really fast connection at home, what you can do is visit all the pages you want online, then sign off the Internet, and when you have time, you can go back and review them with more leisure time. It's especially nice when you're on an airplane with a PowerBook. Right before I take a long flight, I love to go out and hit all the big sites I've been meaning to check out. Then while I'm flying, I can look at them without having to worry about connecting to a phone cable. The last tab is for search. It's giving me a message now that I'm not connected to the Internet, so I'm going to go back to the File menu and uncheck offline browsing. If I click on the Search tab again, it's going to bring up the choices that Internet Explorer gives me for searching the web. Now, that's our next section, but just understand that if you go to the top bar here, you can choose whichever provider you'd like to search with. Now, I happen to really like Lycos, so that's the one I've selected. Let's talk about the Favorites tab on the left-hand side of our screen in Microsoft Internet Explorer. I'm going to move my cursor over the Favorites tab and click it once to expand it. Now, this is really a convenient way to get at all my favorites. They're organized by folders, and I can just click on one to go directly to that site. Obviously, I'm at Apple Computer site a lot, so that's the first one I'm opening up. I can click the Favorites bar again to make it go away to the left-hand side of the screen. So here I am at the Apple site. If I want to choose a new favorite, click on the tab, and let's go to Mac Warehouse. Mac Warehouse is one of the largest suppliers of mail-order Macintosh software and hardware items, and the choices they have are really pretty tremendous. As usual, it's going to go ahead and call up an ad for me first for them. Great deal on an iMac. I already have plenty. And here's what's going on at Mac Warehouse today. As you can see, this is a very busy page. They've got all of their specials ready for us to take a look at, and all we have to do is click to purchase things. Let's talk very briefly about buying things across the Internet. One of the things that we have to remember is, if we're buying things over the Internet, we want to make sure that we have an SSL, or what's called a secure server link. That means that any information you put in, like a credit card number, can't be observed through an outside party. It uses a very, very sophisticated encryption technique to make sure that it can't get caught. And I just want to say that I buy things over the Internet all the time. When you deal with larger companies that do have secure servers, it's completely safe. Another nice thing about buying over the Internet is the speed of the delivery. I have a friend that needed some special editing software for something he was doing. He was able to go online with the company selling the software and actually buy it online and download it immediately to make a deadline. He was cutting a commercial and editing it on his Macintosh, and by the time the software arrived by mail, the commercial was actually airing. So he was able to use the entire software product far faster than he could have gotten it by mail. Now, this is a direction that we're turning in. We can do so much business over the Internet now without having to leave our home or our office. It allows us to shop at a time that's more convenient to us. In addition, because these are mail order houses and they have also downloads available, the selection is far greater than any store could possibly inventory. So there's lots of different choices you can make. One of the things I love to buy over the Internet is coffee and books. Since we've been talking about purchasing things across the Internet, let me show you what a secure connection looks like. Now, whether you're an Internet Explorer or Netscape Navigator, it should bring up a message saying that you're entering a secure location so that you know. But you can be sure by looking on the lower left-hand corner of your screen. Now, this is the same for any version of Explorer that you're using. Can you see the little gold padlock here that's closed? That means we have a secure connection. When you see that you're secure, you can then enter in any information without worrying about it being copied. In Netscape Communicator, you have an unlocked lock and a locked lock. While we're still in Netscape Communicator, let me show you what bookmarks are and how they work. If you go to the Bookmarks menu, we have a couple of different choices at the very top of the screen. The first one is to add a bookmark, and obviously that's the menu command you'll choose when you want to add a bookmark for the current page you're on. If we go to the Edit Bookmark choice, it's going to go ahead and open up our entire bookmark list. Now, as I said before, the beautiful thing about Netscape and Internet Explorer are that they work more or less exactly the same way the Macintosh does. To organize my bookmarks more carefully here, all I have to do is move things around from one folder to another, and it'll move them in. We've just about covered all the basics of Internet Explorer. It works like a basic Macintosh program does, except it allows you to view things on the web. Now, we're going to come back to this program and talk about how to download things a little bit later. But now it's time to get into the real fun of the internet, which is finding what you're looking for. If you don't know what you're looking for, you can't find it. So we're going to cover that right now. Now we're going to get into the really fun part of this tape. We're going to talk about how to find the things you're interested in on the internet. And we do that by searching. We have a number of different options for searching the internet, and I'm going to go through several of them right now. I've reloaded Netscape Communicator. And the first thing I see is on my toolbar at the top of the screen, I have a search button. And I'm going to go ahead and click that. Now, because I haven't specified my preferable search engine, it's going to immediately take me to the Netscape search engine. Now, that's because Netscape would like you to come to their page so that they can sell advertising on it. Every time you visit a site on the internet, it keeps a log of who's been there, when they've been there, and how frequently they go there. That information is used by the people that own the sites to sell advertising space. Now, a really busy site like Netscape gets on the order of 6 or 7 million hits every 4 or 5 hours. It's staggering to believe that. During some of recent things in the news, some sites have gotten as many as 100 million hits in a single day. Now, just because a site gets 100 million hits in a day, that doesn't necessarily mean that 100 million people have visited the site. It could be that 20 million people have visited the site and they've gone to the home page 5 times. Now, that's easy to do. Remember, if you go to a site and then you go into the site a little bit deeper and then come back to the home page, that'll be 2 hits on the home page site. So always take the numbers you hear on internet hits with a little bit of a grain of salt. Okay, right now we're at the Netscape Net Center, and this is where it took me when I hit the search button at the top of my screen. There are a number of different search engines, and you should try all of them to see which ones that you like best. AltaVista is a great one, but some other ones you may have heard of are Yahoo. Contact them at www.yahoo.com, and I'm going to go there in just a minute. Lycos at www.lycos.com. That's my favorite because it seems to me it's the fastest and it gives me the clearest searches when I use it. Additionally, there's 411 and a number of different search engines. Play around, find the ones that you like. Each one offers different things to go to. Now, when you search with multiple words on the internet, it's going to look for how often those words occur together, first of all, and then look for pages where each of those words occurs individually. A way to avoid it searching for those words individually is to put your search criteria in quotation marks. And I'm going to do that right now. I hit quotation marks and I'm going to type in Green Bay Packers and then close the quotes. Now I hit the search button. So I'm saying go out and search the web for those 3 words together on a page. Don't look for them individually, just collectively. Okay, now here's something really amazing. The first thing that came up on my page is obviously what I searched for, but also there's an ad here for CBS Sportsline. It says, wow, did you hear what just happened in football? Click here. Search engines are intelligent. They know what you're looking for, and then they try to match up an advertiser that matches your interest. It's absolutely unbelievable how closely you can match advertisements to people who are browsing on the web. It constantly amazes me. Okay, not very many choices to choose from here. Alta Vista only found 25,514 pages that contain those 3 words separated by spaces. That's pretty common. When you do a search for something on the internet, the number of results you're going to have will absolutely amaze you in every single way. So I have 25,000 pages I can look at if I'm a really big Green Bay fan, and I selected this just at random. If I want to see what one of these are, it tells me the title of the search result, and then it gives me a short synopsis. Now, there's a way that I can set this page up so that it'll just show me the titles, but this is the way that I like it to display. I want to see what you found on the search and give me a little bit of information so I know if that's what I want. Now, some search engines have a more like this button next to it. What that means is it tries to group the results of your search logically. For example, it might have brought up official NFL pages for Green Bay Packers, then home pages that feature Green Bay Packers, then maybe things that you can purchase that have the Green Bay Packers logo on it. By going to the more like this button, it would let me find more of the pages that I'm looking for. When you're searching on the internet, you need to be as specific as possible because so many pages exist on so many subjects. I need to tell you right now, I have never performed a search on the internet and not gotten a result back for something I was looking for. I mean, that's absolutely unbelievable. The Library of Congress, as an example, would be completely unusable without a card catalog to find what we were looking for. The internet is exactly the same way. You have to have an idea of what you're looking for and then go out and find it. Now, when you're just getting on the internet and you just want to play around, pick things that are interesting to you. If you like cooking, search for cooking pages. If you like Indian food, search for pages with tandoori chicken on them. If you're a sports fan, look for your sporting types on it. Anything you want to look for, I promise you, you're going to find it on the internet. Let's go ahead and look at my personal favorite search engine, which is Lycos. I'm going to click on the Lycos button on the left-hand side of my screen, and it's going to bring up the Lycos main menu with my criteria still put in. So let's go ahead and search this for Green Bay Packers and see what comes up. Well, as you can see, it's a little bit different. The first thing it does is it's brought me up a picture of the Green Bay Packers, and that's nice. And then it's brought out matching categories. And these are pictures, sports and recreation, football, and the Green Bay Packers. It gives me a link to go to just for that. If I go further down the page, it's going to show me all the individual links that it found. Now, just like with the other search engine, it's going to try to give me advertiser-specific things that I can go to. For example, my favorite sports screensavers are already up on the right-hand side of the screen here, and that's from one of their advertisers. Now, something else that's nice about Lycos is it gives you a number of different choices on their home page. For example, we have a kids-safe search. That's going to make sure that it excludes anything that's inappropriate for children from your search results. Search options, free email, and I'll be covering that in the email section. And then there's also a general section for news, weather, stocks, free software, free home pages, message boards, and chats. Additionally, I have a link for barnesandnoble.com. Remember, I had amazon.com on the Alta Vista search. And then we have classifieds, white pages, yellow pages, road maps. The road maps are really nice if you're traveling somewhere. If you know the specific address, it'll give you directions on exactly how to get there, and that's really nifty. Let me show you that now. If I click on the road maps hyperlink on the left-hand side of my screen, it's going to bring up the map for the area I want. And I'm going to tell it that I want to see 1060 West Addison in Chicago. And let's see what that brings up. That should be the address for Wrigley Field. It's going to be a little bit of a delay while it draws the map for me. And there it is, Wrigley Field, right with a star on it. I can zoom in additionally to bring it even closer. If I want to see a larger viewpoint, I can use the zoom level over here on the right to bring out all the way to the city if I click there, the state, or the region. There's the city. If I click on the regional zoom level, you can see the larger area. And then if I go all the way to the national level, it should show me the entire United States. Now, it's kind of difficult to find a street address from this level, so you might want to go down to a closer zoom in if you're trying to drive there. Another nice thing about the internet is it can let you track down long-lost friends by using something called a people finder. Now, I'm back at the Yahoo main page. That's www.yahoo.com. By the way, check out our website at www.masterthemacintosh.com for a listing of all the sites that we visited on this tape. You can find it there. Okay, we're going to go to the people search section on the Yahoo homepage, and I'm going to just click on people search. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put my own name in to see if it can find me. So I'm going to enter in my name, Earl Nightingale. It asks me if there's a domain that I know how to search for. Now, unfortunately, most of the people that I look for on the web, I don't know much about them other than their name or maybe the state they're in. So I'm just going to put my name and my first and last name in and then search it. Okay, it found my name and an out-of-date email address for my people search. I'm going to try the people search on the Excite search engine. Remember, I got this by clicking on the search button in Netscape Communicator. I click on People Finder, and it gives me some more choices here. I'll put in my last name, first name. Don't know the street name, but I'm going to give it a little bit of help and tell it that I'm in Florida and say search. Now, besides looking for an individual, I can look for a company online. Let's see if we can find my consulting company. I'm going to type in the name Happy Macs, find only exact matches, and click on the Look It Up button. Now that's terrific. It shows Happy Macs Consulting, the location is Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and it gives me an internet domain that I can go to that site for it. You can find just about anything on the internet if you know how to search correctly for it. I'm going to go through a very specific search with you right now and show you how you can really zero in on what you want to do. Here's what I'm interested in. I want to find a hotel that's near Pike's Place Market in Seattle, Washington. So how do I do that? Well, I could start off just by looking for hotels, but obviously that's going to give me too broad a search. So the first thing I can do is try to search for Seattle hotels. Now, remember the trick I showed you before? When you want to search specifically for something, put it in quotes. So what I'm going to do is, in my search window, I'll start with quotation marks, and then I'll type Seattle hotels and say search. What it's going to do now is it's going to now go out across the web and find all the pages that have Seattle hotels in them. Okay, now I have over 62 results that match my search criteria. So let's see if I can refine it further now. In Netscape Communicator, if I hit Command F, it'll bring up Find on Page. Now this is really useful. What I'm going to do is I'm going to type in Pike because I'm looking for things near Pike's Place Market, and I'll say Find. Now it didn't find anything there for it. So what I can do is I can go back and refine my search. At the top, I've already said Seattle hotels. So now what I'm going to say is I'm going to use an ampersand or just type the word and. What's important to remember about search engines is that you can use what are called Boolean statements like and or in the topic. So I'm going to type and Pike and then say search. Okay, and it's brought up a number of different choices that I can look at. And here, Pike's Place Market bibliography is there, Seattle Yellow web pages, hotels, Warwick hotels. I've got a number of different choices I can go to. Now, most of these are for visitor centers in Seattle. And let's see, it found 1,090,040 hits that matched my criteria. I'm going to select the first hyperlink, Seattle Yellow web pages, hotels. Now here it's showing me a number of different hotels, and this isn't quite what I was looking for, so I'm going to go back and see what's going on. Although right away I see some close hotels for what I'm looking for. Warwick hotels came up second, so let's click on that and see if that's going to give me what I want. Now let's see, it's not giving me a whole lot of information about what I'm looking for, but it is giving me a map. And it also says I can click on the map for a larger view. If I click on it, it's going to bring it up, and here we go. Here's Pike Place Market, and here's the Warwick Hotel. So that's pretty close. You want to be as specific as possible when you're searching the internet because that's going to narrow down the choices that you have. It only took us a few minutes to find exactly what we were looking for in Seattle. If I were to go further down those list of topics, I'm sure I could get my search even closer. But I've tried to illustrate how you can find what you're looking for. For example, let's say that you were looking for used Beatles vinyl albums. The way to do that would be type in the Beatles, maybe type in used albums, and say something about LPs. If you just typed in the Beatles for your search criteria, there would be so many choices that came up, it would really be an unusable search. Since we're looking for Beatles LPs, we could then put an and statement in and say albums or used albums, and that's going to bring us closer to what we want. I think you're starting to get the idea of how to narrow your search down to just the topics that you want. Now that I've shown you how to search on the internet, let me show you a wonderful new feature of Macintosh System 8.5 that lets you search directly from your computer. If we go to Find File, or Sherlock as it's now called in OS 8.5, I can go to the File menu and choose Find, go to the Apple menu and choose Sherlock, or the easiest way is just to hit Command F on the keyboard. Now, Sherlock is the all-purpose search engine that comes with Macintosh OS 8.5. I can find file locally on my drive, find by content of the things that are stored on my computer, like documents or letters. And here's the great new feature. I can search the internet and I can tell it which engines I want it to search. So we searched for the Green Bay Packers before. Let's search for the St. Louis Cardinals this time. I can check on the boxes that I want here on the left for the search engines I want to use. I'm going to have it search encyclopedia.com, Excite, InfoSeek, and the Lycos search engine. Then I just click the search button. Now I'm still connected to the internet, but none of my browser programs are active. I did that on purpose, and I'm going to show you why in just a second. Now it's telling me right now that the following internet search sites have newer versions available. Would you like to update now? I'm going to say go ahead and update. So my search results have now come up. I was searching for St. Louis Cardinals, and look at all the choices I have. It's given me 40 items to look for. If I want to open one of these, all I have to do is select it in the top, and then just click here in the bottom to make it active. When I do, it's going to automatically open the browser I've defaulted to. That means that's the one that I've set up to use automatically on my computer, and open up that location. And there it is. It's taken me automatically to the St. Louis Cardinals mailing list. I did that right from Find File, or Sherlock as it's now called in the Macintosh Finder. Well, that's about it for search engines right now. The next thing we're going to cover is internet email, and I know you've all been waiting for that. Let's go do that now. Now it's time to talk about the subject that everyone's always so interested in, email. Let's talk a little bit about the basics of email. Email is just sending electronically the words on your screen, or for that matter, you can send pictures or attach files to someone else who has an internet account. Now, the beauty of email is it's almost instantaneous. I can send something to someone all the way on the other side of the country, and generally they'll have it in less than 10 or 15 minutes. Sometimes they'll have it within a minute if they're on a very close internet provider. We're going to talk about 3 main email programs. And I'm focusing on these because they're the best ones for the Macintosh and because 2 of them are bundled with the browsers that we've already talked about. Let's talk about Netscape Mail first. To get to Netscape Mail, all I have to do is click on the inbox here on the right-hand side of my screen, and it's going to bring up the email information. And I've got no new messages in my mailbox right now. Now, the way that you send email is just like I'm going to show you. If I want to send a new message to someone and I know what their address is, I just click on the new message button up here on the top. And as you can see, if I hold my cursor over it for a moment, it tells me underneath it, this button creates a new message. So I'm going to send a message to myself. I'm going to say to Earl, and the easy way to reach me. See that? When I typed in Earl, my address already came up automatically. That's because this address was one that I typed in my preferences for the program when I first set it up. My address is already filled in. Then I have to put in a subject, and I'll say the subject is hello there, since this is just a sample. As I type in the subject, it comes across on the top of the screen at the title bar, which is the name of my email. I can then click down here or just hit the tab key and say, "Hi Earl, I love your videotape. Please make more." Now I have my email message all composed, but I have a few more options I can do to it. Number one is I can go up to the spelling button. If I click on that, it'll go ahead and check through the body of my text to see if there's a misspelling. Now, there's nothing in there that has a problem, so it says there's no problem, and I just click the Done button to move on. Once my message is complete, I can just go ahead and click the Send button, and it's on its way. HTML means Hypertext Markup Language. Now, that's the common language that everyone on the internet uses so that everyone sees exactly the same thing displayed. The problem is, if their mail program is incapable of reading HTML language, they won't be able to see my email message. So I'm going to say, go ahead and send it in plain text only, and then click the Send button. On the bottom of my screen, I have a small message saying mail is sent, waiting for a reply. Once it's got a confirmation the mail server has received it, my mail menu will disappear. However, I can always go up here in my sent messages to see which I've mailed. Now, don't forget, when you've got an email message on your screen, you can always hit the print button to print it out, or you can save it as a file as well by going to the File menu and choosing Save. Before we leave Netscape Communicator's mail package, I want to show you how to use the address book in the mail part of the program. Now, this is important because if you're constantly sending a lot of email, you don't want to have to remember everyone's email address or consult another list. You can store it right inside your computer, and here's the way you do it. If we go up to the Communicator menu at the top of the screen and choose Address Book, it'll open up My Address Book. So what I want to do now is create a new card in my personal address book. I do that by clicking on the New Card button in the upper left-hand corner of the window. Now, we're going to fill out an email address card for President Clinton because I happen to know his personal email address. First name is Bill, last name is Clinton, and his email address is president@whitehouse.gov for government. For the nickname, I'm going to type PREZ because I can remember that easily. Now, unfortunately, I don't have his work or home phone number or his fax number, but it gives me room down here to put that in. Additionally, there's a tab at the top of the screen where I can put in contact information about him and his address, and I can also enter in notes about him. I'm not going to do that right now, but you can do that with your own cards. Once I say OK, now President Bill Clinton is entered into my address book. To send a new message to him, all I do is highlight his name here, then hit the New Message button at the top. Now, I'm in a brand new message composition window, and the President's address is already filled out. All I have to do now is type in a subject, type in the body of my text, and hit Send. And it's gone. I just sent him a mail message. Now, I want to show you another way to use names that are already entered in your address book. If I'm in my mail folder and I hit the New Message button, in the To field, all I have to do is type my nickname, PREZ, and it's going to fill in the name automatically for me. It's going to come in on the right-hand side to make sure I've entered in the correct address. And then I just do like I've done before. While we're still in Netscape Communicator, let's go over how you set the preferences for this program to behave. Go to the Edit menu, and the last item is Preferences. Now, in this section, we can set preferences for the entire program, but I'm only going to focus on a couple of different areas. Under the Mail and Newsgroups section, if we click Identity, that's where we put our name and our email address in. Under Mail Servers, that's where we're going to put our POP address and our SMTP address. Remember, those are the outgoing and incoming mail servers. Additionally, under here, we have several different things for setting addressing, how messages are automatically sent, and the way that the windows appear. You can also set it to automatically copy something to your email account so that you get a copy of everything that you send out. It's all in here and it's pretty self-explanatory, but this is where you come to set your preferences. The preferences section is pretty self-explanatory and you should go in there and play around with it yourself. If you do, you'll have the program performing just the way you want it. I now have Microsoft's Outlook Express open. Now that's the bundled email package that automatically comes with Microsoft Internet Explorer. On the left-hand side, it's just like it was in Communicator. We have our inbox, our outbox, that's the things that are outgoing, our sent mail, deleted messages, drafts, contacts, and then our news servers. At the top of the screen, we have a button for a new message, reply to a message, reply to all in the message, forward the message, add a contact to our contact base. One of the items in Microsoft's Outlook Express that differs from Netscape Communicator is that instead of address book, it's called contacts. The add contact button will add a new person to your contact list. We also have a delete button, our contacts file, find something in our email message, send and receive our email messages, and our preferences. Let's go ahead and open up preferences and I'll show you how to set up your own email server preferences. Now, I haven't set this up, so we're going to run through it as if you had just installed it. The account name I'm going to call Earl's Mail Account. It asks me what kind of an account I have, a POP or an IMAP. Your internet service provider will tell you what kind you have, but generally it's a POP server. When we say OK, it wants certain information about me. I'm going to put in my full name, my email address, the organization, and then it wants to know what my sending mail server is. And for me, that's mail.mia.bellsouth.net. Receiving mail, it wants my account ID, now that's just the name that I sign on with, and the POP server, and it's the same as it was for my SMTP server. mail.mia.bellsouth.net. And then I have the option to save my password. If I click on this box, I can then type in my email password, so when I check my email, it'll automatically send my password. I won't have to enter it in each time I check it. On the left-hand side of the screen, we can also enter our news server information. Now, Microsoft's news server is in there as a default, and if I want to add a new one, I'll go to the top of the screen and click New Server button. I'm going to call this Bell South News and enter in the address for that. Now on the bottom, there's a box in case my server requires authentication. Some internet service providers require that you enter in a username and a password when you use their news groups. The reason they do that is because they don't want other users that aren't registered with them using their news server. If we go back on the left side to email under accounts, I'm going to show you how to set up an additional email account. Now, it's possible that you have an email account with another internet service provider, or you have one that's on the internet. So to set up a new account, all I do is enter in the information for a new account. Now, I don't have another one I want to enter right now, so I won't do it, but it's just like setting up the first one. What's nice about this is, if you have multiple email accounts in different locations, you can ask it to check all of them at one time and bring down all the mail. Additionally, in this window for Outlook Express, I have general preferences, start up and quit, what I want it to do. For example, I can tell it to receive all my mail as soon as I start the program. For message composition, I can say that I want it sent either in HTML or plain text. Now I'm going to send mine in plain text. For new sending format, I can use HTML or plain text, and again, I've selected plain text. If we come down to spelling, we can have it default to check our mail messages whenever we send them. The display is mostly regarding colors of things, how they come up, whether or not we've gone there or not. And then you can select the font or typeface that you want your mail displayed. Down below, there are some additional things for network helpers, but you shouldn't be too concerned about those. Most of those are automatically set up by the program when it's installed, and you shouldn't have to mess with them. That's it. It's all set. All I have to do now is check my mail. It's going to work exactly the way that Netscape Communicators mail did, but I want to show you one other button. Here I've got Welcome to Outlook Express as the first mail message in my mailbox. Now, this is put in automatically when I install the software. I want to tell you what the reply button does. The reply button at the top of the toolbar simply sends a message back to whoever sent you the original message. Let me explain that in some more detail. Let's say I got a message from Joe Smith saying, I want you to work on my computer next Friday. That was all that was in the message. If I hit the reply button while that email message was displayed, it would automatically address a brand new message to the person that sent me the message and quote the text they sent me before the body of my text can begin. So their message would be there, and then I'd put my message underneath it. The reply to all button, which is right next to the reply, not only replies to the person who sent me the message, but also sends a copy to everyone who got a message. So if you get messages commonly in your company organization where one person sends it, but 25 people get carbon copies, if you have something you'd like to send not only to the person who sent you the message, but also all the people that received it, you'd use the reply to all button. That sends it not only to the sender, but to all the recipients of the message. Let me go ahead and show you how to add a contact to your contact list in Microsoft Outlook Express. I click on the Contacts button in my toolbar, and it shows me the names of the people that are in my address book. To add a new one, I'll click on the New button, and let's go ahead and add the president again to this one. Bill Clinton. Once I've done this, all I do is hit the Save button, and it's now part of my contact list. And there it is. If I want to send the president a new message, all I have to do is select his name and say Mail to. There, the address is already filled in for me, and all I have to do is put in a subject and then type send. Now we're going to go on to our last email program, and that's called Eudora Pro. Now, Eudora Pro is the email program I like, and it has a number of really nice features to it. Let me go ahead and quit Outlook Express and launch that. When I first open up Eudora Pro, because I've never used it before, it's going to ask me for certain settings, and I need to put those in before I can use the software. First, it wants my real name, so I'll enter that. Wants my username. And then the mail host. Now, the mail host is your mail server. So in here, I need to enter in mail.mia.bellsouth.net. Then it asks for a return address if it's not username at mailhost. Because my mail host is different than the address for my mail server, I need to put in the return address. In hosts, this is where I enter my SMTP server address. In checking mail, I can specify whether or not I want it to check for mail automatically or not to check at all when using battery if you have a PowerBook, to skip messages over a certain size and leave my messages on the server for a certain amount of time. I can also tell it to save my password and send it automatically when it's checking mail. Take a look at the different items on the left-hand side of the settings window, and it'll let you specify the way you want Eudora to behave just for you. They're really pretty self-explanatory, and I think you'll be able to understand them on your own. Let's go ahead and go through sending a mail message in Eudora and how we set up some of the other preferences. To send a new message, I can go to the New Message button. Now I know which one that is because when I move my cursor over it, it tells me underneath that this button activates a new message. So I'll go ahead and do that. But wait a minute, I don't have the president's email address in my address book yet, so I need to get that set up. To do that, I go to the Window menu at the top of my screen and open up my address book. And I can view by either nickname, address, then real name, postal address, phone, or fax. But I'm going to leave it on nickname. I need to come down to the bottom of the screen and click on New Entry, and I'll call this Prez. Now, that's the nickname I just put in, so I need to put in the full address now. The correct address is president@whitehouse.gov. Now I can put in some notes about him, and then I can go back up on top and put his real name. And that's it. I can go ahead and close the window now, and it asks me to save my changes. So now in my to box, I can just type PREZ, and it fills in the rest of the name for me, and hit the tab key. Now, because it's in bold text, I know it's found the correct address for my address book. Fill in the subject, and then fill in the body. Now, if I want to attach something to him, I can come up to the button up on the top of the screen for Attach Document, and then just go ahead and select something. I'm going to send him the README for Eudora because I think he'll find it really interesting. Then all I do is click the Send button. It's that simple. Now, one of the things that Eudora Pro does, that Outlook Express also does, is it allows you to specify multiple email accounts so that you can check more than one email account at the same time. Now, that's really convenient if you have multiple email accounts, and I encourage you to use it. Otherwise, Eudora works very similarly to the way the other two email programs work. Eudora Pro does come with a couple of really nice features. One of them is a program called Pretty Good Privacy, and it's an encryption program that makes sure that everything you send out is secure. Now, I'm not going to go into it because it's too detailed right now, but the documentation that comes along with the software is excellent. Additionally, Eudora Pro comes with its own spell checker program that you can even use in other application software as well. If you're really into email and expect to be sending a lot of it, this is an excellent program to buy. I use it and I love it. Now, there's only one more topic I really need to go over with you. In the early days of the internet, you needed different software applications to do different things on the internet. For example, you needed a separate email program, a separate web browser, and you needed a separate FTP engine. Now, FTP stands for File Transfer Protocol, and that's about moving files from one location to another. Now, one of the best programs for FTP use on the Macintosh is called Fetch. But most of the FTP jobs that you're going to do are going to be downloading things, and these are built into modern web browsers like Communicator and Explorer. I'm going to show you how to do this real quick. It's very, very simple. I'm going to go to Apple's site at www.apple.com. Now that I'm at the Apple site, I want to go to a download center, so I'm going to go to Support, because I know that's where programs are available for download. Now that I'm at the Support page, I'm going to go to Software and go down to Apple Software Updates. Now, this is going to take me to the section of Apple's site where downloads are available, things like updates for programs and system software. Now, I have to pick which one I want to get into, and the directory I want is the Macintosh directory. Now I'm on the application update page, so I have to tell it what I'm looking for. I'm going to go into application updates. And we'll go down to Claris Draw. Navigation is very important on the internet. You have to know where you're going so you can go there very easily. FTP works just like a normal hyperlink would. In other words, the first item is the Claris Draw 1.0 version 4 update image. So to download that, all I have to do is go over here on the right to where it says Mac Binary. Now, you can see it says Mac Binary and BINHEX. Now, those are just two means of storing the same file. The Mac Binary one is a smaller download, and you'll get that one faster. All I have to do is click on Mac Binary under Get, and the window opens up to tell me that my download is already started. When it's all done, this window will close automatically, and it'll be on my hard drive wherever it's been selected that my default download location is. It automatically selects the desktop as your default download location, and if you want to change that, you can do it in the Preferences section. It's going to take a while to download, but believe me, it'll be on my drive as soon as it's done. FTP is really that simple. It's not necessary to use an additional program anymore unless you're putting things up on the internet. That's called uploading files. For example, you might upload programs to your web page so that other people can see them. For that, you'll need a special FTP program, and the best one to use is Fetch. Now, all this information being available for free on the internet probably seems like it's too good to be true. Let me briefly explain the economics of the internet. Whenever you go to a search engine, or for that matter to a home page, you're probably going to see an advertisement on it somewhere. Those are called banner ads, and people pay to have their ads on those pages each month, hoping they'll get the right people interested. Additionally, as we saw when we did the search for Green Bay Packers, using something called push technology, advertisers can zero in on those people interested in their products. For example, we put in a search about sports, and the CBS Sports line came up to match up with our search, and hopefully we'll go there. Advertisers know if they can try to be more specific with the people they're looking for, they'll get better results. Now, it's expensive to advertise on the internet. Number one, you have to have a nice professional web page, and that has to be hosted somewhere so that people can access it. Additionally, they have to register with search engines so that the topics on their page are available for anyone doing a search. And lastly, banner advertising and push technology advertising costs money too. So it's almost like watching network television. There are commercials that are there mixed in with the entertainment. But instead of TV shows, the entertainment is actually in the information. You're probably already wondering how you can take advantage of this opportunity. Stay tuned to our webpage for future updates on how to get your business on the internet and how to get your own presence known. We're living in a magical time today. It truly is the information age. There are multi-billion-dollar companies, you've heard of them, they're software companies, whose only purpose is to help you gather and use information better. You've probably heard the term future shock before, and all future shock is being overwhelmed with the technology around us. Things are getting smarter, easier, faster than they ever did before, and it's an amazing time to be alive and working with it. Your Macintosh and this series of tapes is going to help you unlock the power that's available to you. If you're not current with technology and you can't access the information, you're going to be left behind in the next millennium. So stay tuned. We've got a lot of exciting things coming to you. Keep checking out our webpage at www.masterthemacintosh.com, and we'll bring you along with us as we move into this exciting new frontier of technology.